Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Monday, October 23rd, 2023. We invite members of the public to join us in Trails Council chambers during our meetings. Alternatively, you can observe the meeting via Zoom, or you can watch it later as the webinar will be recorded and published to our city's YouTube channel. The first item on our agenda is the adoption of minutes. So you have the regular council meeting minutes from October 10th, 2023 in your packages. Can I get a recommendation that the minutes be adopted as circulated? Motion by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Wilson. Call for vote. Passed unanimously. I'd like to welcome Sergeant Mike Wasentowicz here from the Trail and Greater District RCMP detachment. He'll be providing council with a report on 2023 third quarter crime statistics.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Sergeant Mike Wasentowicz, just for the viewing public of the Trail detachment. So third quarter statistics were just issued last week, and I get a chance to come down here and present. So they're fairly consistent. However, between this quarter and the third quarter in 2022, we noticed a drop in a few categories. Fortunately, no homicides or attempted homicides this quarter. Assaults, sexual offenses, robberies, and auto thefts remain about the same. There's not any big statistical differences, same with theft from motor vehicle and break and enters. What's nice to see from theft from motor vehicles, they are way down. I think we're, in the double digits, I think as high as 60 or 70 when I first started. So the campaign to get people to lock their doors and remove their valuables has really worked. And, that's a lot of effort by the public. And I'm just proud of us as a city for pulling that off. Drug investigations are down to 4, and this is the lowest I've ever seen it. It has a lot to do with decriminalization and the way drug works. Drug arrests happen. Typically in the past, prior to decriminalization, anybody with possession of drugs could be arrested. It doesn't mean we charge people with possession, but sometimes those arrests for possession led to the seizure of guns, more drugs, search warrants. So decriminalization is seen, as a direct cause to lowering our drug investigations and success, targeting drug traffickers. Overall, criminal code files are down 70 by 76, and total calls for service were a little bit down, but these things fluctuate, from time to time, and this is a very small fluctuation. Now on to page 2. Motor vehicle collisions remain consistent. Thank God, no fatalities. And then, though there's a bit of a dip in impaired driving enforcement, we're still fairly statistically high for our area and the amount of officers we have. A few less tickets handed out. However, that could be resource dependent, just the number of officers working and be able to dedicate themselves to handing out tickets. But again, it's a small variation. Negative contacts with youth are up to 7. Again, this is 3 to 7. We don't really have a lot of negative contacts, I call it, with youth. There's the way the world works today, kids mostly are at home. They're not wandering around in big groups like when I was a kid. So those things are usually very low. Mental health related calls, about 79. That's about average, I would say, for our area. And then files involving alcohol and drugs seems a little higher, but again, statistically, it seems within the parameters I'd expect. So domestic violence falls up to 9, down from 6. And we would like to see 0. However, this is still very low for any detachment area. And we do focus a lot on making sure we conduct a thorough investigation on every domestic violence related file, as well as providing support so that cycle does not get repeated. Check well-being, suspicious occurrences, and unspecified assists. Those are all generally like a general category. We, since the pandemic, people have come to rely on us to check on the well-being of people. I think in this this era of mental health awareness, that we do get a lot of calls for, you know, somebody to from someone, whether it's a family member or a friend or somebody in another town, to go check on someone to make sure they're okay if they haven't heard or seen from them in a while. Most of the time it turns out okay, but every now and then you find someone that needs help, and we're happy to go there and give assistance. Suspicious occurrences, these were relatively low when I started, but we do encourage people to report solving crime. You know, we can have all the cameras and forensic evidence we want, but really it comes down to people a lot of the time calling it in and then being witnesses for us. So I think this higher number of suspicious occurrences, vehicles, and persons reported just means the public's aware, and you know there are partners out there reporting on things they see. And unspecified assist can basically just involve anything that doesn't not easily categorize, but a lot of the time it just involves us responding to a call and assisting in any way we can. Any questions?
Hanson?
I've noted seeing a lot more members regularly in our downtown core. Is that because of calls, or is that just because of being downtown and having a presence in the downtown core as well?
It's both. So number of calls, generally trail, downtown trail is a large volume of our calls. And you can expand that to trail proper, just because we're the biggest urban center. You know, there's a large population downtown that we regularly deal with. In addition, there is a priority for us to be downtown because that's where let's say the action is. So I've worked in bigger cities, and you know, we're a fairly low crime, low violence area, but I do have some good officers, and they like being downtown because that's where they, you know, conduct investigations and sometimes uncover crime. Generally, everybody we're looking for with warrants or for criminal offenses passes through downtown in a car or on foot. So it's always a good place to go down if we're looking for someone. But me and Fire Chief Dan Derby do a weekly walk as often as we can, just to get a flavor of what's going on down there. And it's very important for us to be where people are, even though we provide service to a large area.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Any other questions?
Is this the end of your report then, or because I have the obvious question that I expect you were ready to be asked, and that would be your staffing levels current and also projected staffing levels. Is that something we'll address at this meeting?
Yes. So we have low staffing levels. I won't say the exact number. However, we have having a officer starting next week that should be with us for a few months, just to help us out. We have a new recruit starting in 2 weeks. Even though he's a new recruit, he's 45 years old and has a lot of life experience. We expect good things from him. And then in the new year, we do expect more people in. What happened last week is we became a divisional priority for staffing, which means it's a much smoother transition if someone wants to come to Trail to work, to get back here to work. So it's good to talk about this in this meeting, because if there's anybody out there that knows, you know, a relative that works for the RCMP or somebody they're connected with, it's a good time to come back home if they want to get back here or come try trail out. We're finding officers who want to come here, you know, love the outdoors, love small town life with those big town benefits, hospital, libraries, downtowns, good restaurants, skiing, all those great things. So I think it's, you know, housing's still affordable here, even though it may seem like to the people here that, you know, it's a little more challenging, but we're still a great place to live at a great cost. So I do hope to attract that kind of person here, the one that wants the rural policing and big adventures out in the outback are a great place to raise their kids. So I do anticipate 2024 being a better year for resourcing.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Councillor Wilson?
Do you see a way of working with the decriminalization? You know, it's frustrating to see those numbers drop so much. And I'm just wondering if you guys think there's a way, or you see some light at the end of the tunnel with it, or do we just accept Or sort of the cards that we've been dealt here?
It's challenging because with the change in law, it does prevent us from making those arrests for possession. I shouldn't say prevent us, that's no longer on the table.
Mhm.
There are conditions where we can, but it's very unique, not unique circumstances, but restricted circumstances. So what we need is to build our numbers back up and get our crime reduction rolling again. Those are typically the two officers, along with GIS, that target drug trafficking, which involves actually quite a bit of effort. Surveillance, sometimes undercover purchases of drugs, sometimes search warrants, often search warrants, I say, and sometimes wiretaps or one party. So these are complicated and expensive techniques that require resources. So we have done them before. When I first started here, they had just done quite a major operation for 3 months and had some good success there. We'd like to repeat that, but it's going to take officers and money, time, and energy that currently is not available to us right now.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sergeant Vicentowicz,
Thank you.
for your
Yes,
presentation.
thanks for having
tonight.
me.
And I'd like to welcome Carolyn Amantea, who will be giving us a presentation on the West Kootenai Local Immigration Partnership.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am Carolyn Amantea, and I am the new coordinator for the West Kootenai Local Immigration Partnership. And I'll just wait until our presentation is up. It's okay. Nope.
Oh, sorry.
Not quite. That's okay. There we are. Wonderful. If you can to the first slide, it's going to be hard to cue you there. So the West Kootenai Local Immigration Partnership is a program that will be administered by the already existing and well-established Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy. So those of you familiar with CBAL, we have 16 hub offices throughout the basin and boundary, serving 77 communities in that region. 11 of those offices have settlement and language services. Under our contract federally with Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, we call that IRCC. And then part of that program is also funded municipally through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and the BC Settlement and Integration Services. I'll let you switch that. The West Kootenai Local Immigration Partnership is simply going to serve the Lower Columbia region, Nelson and Castlegar at this time. So hopefully, if we have some success with this program, we'll be able to expand it into the East Kootenai as well. So currently there are around 88 LIPs in Canada. We're going to call the LIP for the purposes of saving our breath. LIPs in Canada have been federally funded since 2008. And the first LIP in British Columbia was formed in 2014, around the time of the Welcome BC initiatives. I believe that the West Kootenai Local Immigration Partnership is the 18th. And the latest addition to that. There is a large community of practice nationally. The National LIP Secretariat is actually held by an organization in Jasper, Alberta. So I can give you a bit of a timeline. We know that the federal government has several different immigration initiatives happening. Locally, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot is an economic immigration stream that began in 2019. And the first iteration of RNIP, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, was limited mostly to the Lower Columbia, Castlegar, Nelson, into Salmo, and a little bit up the Slocan Valley. It was initially a 2-year pilot aiming to fill the sort of the lower skilled job sector. So these aren't your engineers and your doctors who could immigrate through express entry provincial nominee programs. These would be our truck drivers, our taxi cabs, our early childhood educators, long-term care, healthcare assistants. So skills that are necessary in our region, but that don't really qualify people to immigrate under the normal provincial streams. On the success of that pilot, they extended it and expanded it by a year. So it is set to wind up in March of 2024. But on the heels of that, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada decided to fund a feasibility study for the LIP in the West Kootenay region. CBOL was awarded the contract for the funding for that feasibility study. And we contracted that out to a private organization out of the Lower Mainland who came and met with municipalities, with service providing organizations and key stakeholders in the region. And it was determined that there is an appetite and a need for a LIP in this region. And with that, IRCC approved the funding to us this June in 2023. So where we're at now is we're just starting to do our work on our website development. We have a research project coming, and that has also been contracted out to the same folks who did the feasibility study for us. And it is really a snapshot of the immigration profile in the region, community assets and gaps, and the demographics. Of course, with the census having just come out in 2021, there's a whole pile of new data for them to work with. And the bigger part for us right now are some strategies around committee recruitment. So wondering, what is the difference then between the settlement services that exist already and the local immigration partnership? So CBOL has been providing direct services to newcomers in the forms of settlement service and language instruction since 2014. However, LIPs don't provide direct service to newcomers. So settlement services, we like to say, prepare newcomers for community. They get oriented to the community. They understand how to get a driver's license, understand how to read their lease, register their children in school, feel a part of this community. LIPs really work to prepare communities to receive those newcomers. So it's a higher level collaboration of municipalities and the existing stakeholders to get us ready for the inevitable influx of immigrants. The team for the settlement service side is made up of our settlement workers, language instructors, and locally our community literacy outreach coordinators. Here in Trail, that's Jody Campbell. Wyatt Gordon is our settlement worker. On the LIP side, it's a bit smaller staff. There's myself. I'm in the process of hiring a program assistant, and then we will have 2 key committees that will form the local immigration partnership. Why now? Well, we know that our communities are changing, and we really do have to adapt to this more quickly than not, I would say. We know that immigration helps to reverse declining populations, and they do boost our local economies in the sense that newcomers often will open businesses. People who stay here participate in community. They purchase goods, they eat at restaurants, they enroll their children in sports and recreation. Smaller communities, we know, have a harder time to attract and retain newcomers. So sometimes there's that feeling of isolation, a lack of services, and people will come and then maybe move away once they find that this isn't necessarily the welcoming place that they had hoped. Thank you. So there will be 2 key groups. So the working group is going to be made up of a high level of managers and staff from key service providing sectors. So if we think about Interior Health, Work BC, colleges, from the city, members of the Recreation Committee, planning departments, and things like that. They will meet at least quarterly. And we are going to recruit across all 3 communities, hopefully fairly equitably, so that all 3, Castlegar, Nelson, and then this region, have equal investment and stake in this. And there will be some subcommittees and task groups, perhaps for people who don't want to commit to that higher level of planning, but they might have a special area of expertise or interest. The Newcomer Advisory Committee is another mandated part of the LIP. It will be made up of 12 well-settled, well-connected newcomers to the region. We think sometimes of newcomers as people who are visible minorities or don't have English as their first language, but that's not always the case. You know, we could have people from Australia, the United States, the UK, who, you know, speak our language and seem like it would be a very nice fit, but our cultures are still quite different sometimes. We want people on that committee who are knowledgeable about the assets and the challenges to immigration in this area. And we will rotate venues, obviously, through the three communities. For the newcomers, then we will have some things like childcare and transportation subsidies available for them to participate. So what are the benefits of the local immigration partnerships? We hope that they will shift the mindset of our community decision makers. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is a part of almost every strategic plan, but we want that to be more than just a checkbox. We want that to be part of the fabric of our community moving forward. We want to enhance our collaboration and leverage each other's assets and connections and contacts across these three communities to work a bit more regionally to help to integrate our newcomers. At a community level, just to increase the understanding of the benefits of immigration and promote diversity in this area. There's sometimes some anti-immigration sentiment that comes through in different ways, and it's our hope that that will sort of decrease as we raise the profile of the benefits of immigration. And by doing so, you know, addressing racism and improving cultural agility of the community at large. So thanks, Sandy. Sorry, and then the last point there, that's okay. So some examples of existing LIPs on the left, I don't expect that you would be able to read all of the data on there, but this is a newcomer demographic fact sheet put out by the Langley Local Immigration Partnership. This is part of the research project that we will be taking on. So we'll have some hard facts and a really nice infographic, probably 2 or 3 pages that would be housed on our website, an asset to the communities, but also to the newcomers who come. I Am Waterloo, and this is an example of an anti-racism campaign. They've got this beautiful series of posters and social media posts that they will promote. So we'll be looking to do some kind of work along that line as well. So for the city of Trail or the Lower Columbia, I would expect, what I would ask is perhaps that you consider naming a counselor or a staff member or 2 to the working group or subcommittee. I know the former Director of Parks and Recreation was part of the feasibility study. That plays a great role here. I'd ask that you support the work of the LIP through promoting it perhaps on your website, just a simple link to that, endorsement of our activities and participation in events and trainings that might be offered through the LIP. And then just a commitment to supporting a welcoming and inclusive community. When you're thinking about strategic planning, when you are developing policy, when you're making decisions. So something as simple as zoning. You know, we have no place of worship for people who practice the Sikh faith, right? We haven't a Gurdwara, we haven't a mosque. So if somebody were to come with a rezoning application to build such a facility, you know, thinking with the lens of welcoming community and integration and raising that profile, just keeping those kinds of things in mind when those policies are made. To keep my presentation short, you are always welcome to contact me directly. I've got a PDF of this presentation that can go to council, and you're welcome to share that with anybody who wishes to email. The new LIP website will be launched soon. It's under development right now, but for now you can always visit cbal.org for information on settlement and language services. And with that, I will end my presentation. You're welcome. I'm happy to answer questions or have a conversation.
No,
It's
it's
a casual.
projected numbers of the influx of immigration to the region.
So I can give you, the only number I can really give you right now, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot in the last 2.5 years has settled 700 newcomers. So that's the primary applicant plus their family members to the region. So they've achieved their permanent residency through the program. So just through that one economic immigration stream, we're seeing a lot of newcomers.
Second question, the lack of housing in the area, does that create a deterrence then for allowing immigrants to come to our area?
I don't know if you would say allowing. I would say it's a deterrent in the sense of, you know, Divisions of Family Practice has a great doctor that they want to onboard, but there's nowhere for them to live. this could be a problem. So I think with some of the provincial legislation around short-term housing, hopefully that will alleviate some pressure. I know federally there was discussion around limiting the number of study permits for international students, just based on the fact that many of them can't secure housing in the area. But, you know, when we do some of this cultural agility and awareness, maybe it's reaching out to landlords to say, you know what, it is culturally appropriate for many people to live in a small space. I'm not speaking of, you know, 10 students in a 1-bedroom apartment, but, you know, for some families, it's quite common to have a family of 5 or 6 in a 2-bedroom apartment. So trying to just raise the profile of immigration that way, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Carolyn, for the website that's under construction right now, what type of resources will be on there compared to your CBOL one?
Right, so it will be sort of 2 streams. So we'll have that newcomer, the demographic fact sheet will be on there. There will be sections for Trail, the Lower Columbia, for Castlegar, and for Nelson. For newcomers, there would be some, you know, culturally appropriate events, how to settle here, you know, it will point back to the CBOL website in terms of settlement and inclusion and language. And then for employers, we might have some information for employers or around housing, different things like that. So if you take the time to explore some local immigration partnership websites, you'll find all sorts of different things. The terms of reference of the working group will be set in the coming months. And so that will really, I'm not the driver of that bus. It will really be up to the communities and that table to see what sort of initiatives, what kind of material will be on the website. Yeah.
Councillor Hanson.
And so in explaining all of this, are you guys working with the Lower Columbia Community Development Team Society, or are you making a presentation to them as well, because they're supporting economic development, and of course with the shortage of people, you know, that are here to work, and you know, I think that would be such a great, you know, endeavor with them as
Yes,
well.
absolutely. Rebecca Richards was part of our feasibility study, and Yakmin von Tonder from Metal Tech Alley was also, she was part of the study in a one-to-one interview. So yeah, we'll absolutely be engaging with them. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right,
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on in our agenda to council committee reports, and we'll start with Councillor Butler today.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got just one to report on my feedback on the LCCTS on the meeting. Other than that, that's in my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Butler? All right, Councillor Cashel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On October 18th, I did attend the Trail and District Public Library Board meeting. We appreciate Mayor Jones coming in to make condolences to the staff and board members in the passing of Joanne. And I'd just like to put a plug out there, a plea that we are looking for board members. And if you want to be part of something that is innovative, that is a free, welcoming, all-inclusive, beautiful facility, then I would encourage you to go on the city website and fill out the application, because I'm very proud of our library. And if you want to share that pride, then sign up, because it's a great facility. We don't just talk the talk at the library, we walk the walk, and I'm very proud of the staff at the library, how welcoming they are and how they've adapted to our downtown core and what's going on there. So I'm very proud of that, and just would encourage anybody that's considering a board position to look into applying. Thank you, Acting Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Cashel. Any questions? All right, Councillor Hanson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On the 12th, I attended the Downtown Trail Improvement Committee, which they are working through with the Community Futures partnership there for the grant opportunity that they're working on, and they've gotten some great letters of support from the business community to support the grant application that they've been about for. On the 13th, I was invited to join the Champion House Society in a presentation from the Street to Home Foundation, which was formed by working with the private sector to broker and leverage new funding, innovative ideas, and opportunities for collaboration between public and nonprofit sectors to implement sustainable solutions to homelessness in Vancouver and how they can assist Champion House Society to move forward with the project that they're working on with an all-inclusive detox facility. On October 15th, I attended the 25th celebration of Sanctuary House with many of the councillors here, which was a nice event, as well as met Fred Cunningham and got to see the Stanley Cup, which was a great event. I know all of our future hockey stars in the area thought it was a pretty incredible experience. On the 16th, along with many members of council, attended the Local Leaders United workshop from the Community Action Initiative, and it was really refreshing to hear from the facilitator that we are further ahead than a lot of municipalities for where we are at, having conversations and working with Interior Health, local fire and RCMP, shelter operators, supportive housing, and to help the vulnerable in our communities. So that was really refreshing to hear. The 17th, I attended a supportive housing committee meeting, and I got to meet the newest rep from BC Housing, who is now going to be our regional person. And he has never come to Trail before. And so I invited him to come and tour the region to understand the area, understand our locations and our landscape. So when they're looking at other supportive housing places to look at, really understanding full spectrum and not from a computer screen, but actually being here to see what we have to work with. And then on the 17th as well, the Champion House Society did a presentation at the United Church, starting to bring stakeholders together to understand what they were trying to do in the community.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Hanson? One thing to note, just for the public, is that the presentation on the Champion House is on YouTube if you want to take a search. I watched it last night and really interesting. So. All right, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Benson. On behalf of council, I attended the following meetings. So on October the 11th, I attended a regional district board meeting. On the 15th, I also attended Sanctuary's 25th anniversary with fellow councillors. On the 16th, I also attended the Local Leaders United and Community Action Initiative workshop with Mayor Jones and fellow councillors. On the 19th, I attended the Trail Historical Society meeting, and on October the 19th, I went to my first business after business function at Kootenay Savings Credit Union with Deputy Mayor Benson and myself. It was hosted by not Councillor Paul Butler, but the person who works at Kootenay Savings Credit Union, Paul Butler. And I'm going to give kudos to Paul because I was absolutely impressed with his speech. In all seriousness, he did a wonderful job. Got to meet some other folks there. It was a good way to just get together and just talk to folks. And this afternoon at noon, we had a community safety task force meeting. There was 12 participants plus Deputy Mayor Benson, CEO McClure, and myself. And we had an update from Chief Derby. We also there's a lot of groups that sit around this table at that meeting, so we're trying to put together a map. We were going to call it a flow chart, but it's going to be a map of what everybody does, because there's so many different groups and they do a lot of good things within our community, but we want everybody to know what everybody does so we can work together and make things better for folks in our downtown core and throughout other areas of our city. We're also going to get each of those groups to come back to the next meeting, excuse me, in November with a one-pager to explain to everybody what their actual group does. So just to make it a lot easier, because a lot of people are, oh, we do that, or we don't do that, or that's interesting. It's interesting to see how it was flowing today. I think it went very well. That's it for my report. And as usual, if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to connect.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Any questions? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Benson. On the 15th, I also attended the Sanctuary open house, and I'm also on the board of directors there and a volunteer. So on behalf of Sanctuary, I want to thank those that came down. It was great to show you guys the inside of the building and just the operation that goes on there. I think it's a fantastic organization. It's been operating for over 25 years. So if you want to donate your time or your money, they're always open to both. So, thank you guys for coming down, because that meant a lot to the sanctuary to have you guys down there. And then on the 17th, along with Councillor Hanson, I also attended the Champion House Society, and I was encouraged with their ideas. I think it's a tall task that they're taking on, but more power to them if they can get some legs beneath those ideas. It's a issue that this region is struggling with. So it's just nice to see maybe the first conversation, hopefully of many, on that topic. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Wilson? Great. So for my report, I think it's different going at the end. You said everything. So I attended the 25th anniversary of Sanctuary. Also, what a wonderful place. I had never been in there before, and I felt like I was in someone's home, and it was very, very lovely event. I also saw the Stanley Cup, and it was pretty cool to see so many people in the arena lining up to see the cup and meet Craig. I also attended the Local Leaders United workshop, and I want to echo Councillor Martin in his kudos to Kootenai Savings Paul Butler, because I also attended the October 19th Business After Business, and the speech he gave about credit unions and the difference they make in our everyday life and in our communities was really impactful. It was really well done. Thank you. I also attended the Trail and District Arts Council AGM that evening. It was neat. They had all of their affiliates give presentations on their 2 successes and challenges over the past year, and they have so many affiliates that work with them. Many we met during Silver City Days committee, so it was really interesting and hearing opportunities for them to collaborate together. And finally, I just want to remind everybody that Spooktacular is coming up this Saturday, 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock downtown trail. So hopefully the weather is great and you have a lot of fun. And moving along to new business. Any new business this evening? Okay. And we move on to department reports. So in our package was the building department for September 2023, and the motion that this report be received for information. And it's moved by Councillor Hanson, seconded by Councillor Martin. All in favor? Unanimous. And adjournment. Councillor Cashel, Councillor Wilson. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Meeting adjourned.
Also.